So, like, what's the deal? What do I have against 3D printing? Well, nothing really. It's just that ever since I was a kid, I always loved building stuff with my hands. Cardboard, foam, resin, super glue, duct tape. I guess what I'm trying to say is I've never felt the need to go into 3D printing because I just enjoyed feeling and building something out of nothing. It's been my hobby for a while. 3D printing can completely replace this hobby. These days, 3D printing has become so ridiculously easy and accessible that at this point, it's hard to ignore. So now it kind of feels like the perfect time to start getting into it. And what better way to start than to 3D print a Spider-Man mask with moving lenses? First things first, you need a 3D printer. Okay, now the lab just sent us their A1 3D printer. Honestly, I would have just bought the on right. Oh, you thought this was the printer? No. That's the printer. What's in this box? Okay, I think this is filled with one spot. That is a lot of film. We've got to fill with some RFID tags inside, which tells the printer exactly what settings to use. Not only is this family printer so smart and automated, it's also incredibly easy to set up. The assembly video on YouTube is great if you're looking into what like your hands. Now, my dad actually gave me my first 3D printer almost 10 years ago, but I did a single successful print on it, so I just gave up. This printer is the opposite. You just plug it in and it works. Alright, let's get to work. I'll download Vendor Studio, which is the slicer I'm going to use, and of course, we need a free model. I decided to purchase this one made by Cool Comic Studio on Etsy, which I'll be going to know. Once we have our 3D model, we can open Vendor Studio and create a new project. There's quite a few folders in here, but let's just start with the face shot. Since my head is kind of small, I use this scale button to resize everything to 95%. From here, we can change the orientation of the print. You can go upright, upside down, sideways, whatever works for you, but this orientation works for me. Over here, we specify what printer we're using, and down here, these 4 colors represent the 4 schools of the AMS. I can press 4 if I want the whole model to be red, and furthermore, I can even use this tool to assign different colors to individual sections. Only the eyes will be visible in the final product, so you could print them all black, but I used some red so it's easier for you to see when reading the camera. For the layer height, 0.28 is good enough in this case. Let's enable supports, and if you click preview, it will show you exactly how long the print will take. Before printing, you just need to make sure that the right color is assigned to the right slot. In my case, black is on A1 and red is on A4. Now we're ready to print, and we can let the machine work its magic. Stay smooth as butter. This looks really good, and it feels great too. If you remember, we scaled down to 95%. Now, the creator of this 3D file strongly recommends that you don't change the scale, otherwise the tolerances of all the moving parts gets all thrown off. But I have some workaround for mine, which I'll show you throughout this video. I bought some print screws on Amazon, and I'm going to cut the head off with a pair of wire cutters. These are going to go right here inside those 2 holes, but before that, I just need to make a little more room for the screws to fit, especially since we scaled down the file. Next, we need to thread the hole, but at the time of recording this, I didn't have an M3 trap bit on there, so I just manually threaded the hole with the screw itself, which wasn't ideal, but it seemed like it worked out fine. I carefully screwed these onto the pliers, and these screws are what the moving lenses are going to hinge on. A little super glue will keep these locked in, and we can move on to the Since the moving shutters are going to be visible in the final product, I printed them with a 0.08 millimeter layer head. But unless I mention otherwise, everything else was just done at 0.28 millimeters, which is good enough. I had to drill these holes a little larger to compensate for scaling down to 95%. But once that's all sorted out, we're using a little bit of heat from the heat gun to soften those shutter pieces and make them conform to the curve of the face shape. These tiny orange pieces here are designed to snap together with these little thin pieces. If they don't fit, however, it could be due to slight limitations in your printer's ability to find details. In any case, the 3D modeler actually included a few size variations of those pieces, so you can just test them out and use the one that fits best. A little drop of super glue is all that's needed to keep this orange piece intact, and basically that orange piece is going to get dragged by the piece that's on top of it, so that from the front you see multiple layers of shutters. Now we'll snap on that green piece, which just prevents the orange piece from sliding underneath. Now there's a specific order that the shutter pieces need to be stacked in, so this bottom shutter goes in between the 2 top shutters, and then this remaining bottom shutter goes last. Once all the holes are lined up, you can slide this whole thing onto the screw and then cap it off with an angle. I probably should have used a longer screw for this net, but it worked out anyway. The frames for the eyes were printed with a 0.08 millimeter layer height just to try to get a little more detail. Just like we did with the shutter pieces, I heated these up until they became knotty-hole and pressed it onto the mask. Once the plastic cools down, it stays curved, and from here, you get a temporary and not moving onto the mask. So I like that. These are all the moving parts that will make the eyes open and close. Of course, these pieces of plastic aren't just going to move by themselves, so that's where these little MG90S servos come into play. These servos come included with those screws, and make sure to set those aside for later because we'll be using them. Taking a look at this servo, you'll notice that it doesn't really fit properly in this green piece like it's supposed to, and that's because we shrunk everything down to 95%. So what we're going to have to do is shape these walls down with some sandpaper to make the gap large enough to allow this servo to fit in here. Low-key, I always made how much sanding I need to do. If I were to do this over again, I would probably use Dremel and curve it, and that would probably get the job done a lot faster. Anyways, eventually I was able to get the servo to fit. Because all that matters really. Let's set this aside and we can work on the next one. These orange pieces should be able to slide freely like this, but if they don't, just sand them down a little bit. I believe my A1 printer is super crispy and accurate, so I don't really have to sand everything. Once again, because we scaled everything down to 95%, we have to compensate by making this hole a little larger. Afterwards, we can take the screw that came with the servo, feed that through the hole, and then screw this thing in between the two orange pieces. We want to leave a little wiggle room, that way this green piece can spin freely, which will allow the orange pieces to kind of take apart like this. Well, my tap bit eventually came in well, so now I can put it to good use. When threading, I'm careful not to drill too fast or else the plastic will melt, especially since I'm using daylight. Once those holes were threaded, I switched to an 8-inch drill bit and drilled all the holes on these 3 arm pieces. Here I'm using the exact same M3 screws we used earlier, and I make sure to leave a little wiggle room so that these can rotate freely like this. By the way, this gray piece here is going to be ever so work through the white mesh eyes, so ideally you should print this in a later filament like white or blue over here. As you can see, I added some M3 washers and M3 screws, and now we're ready to install the scope.
बैक पर से आती है विंडो होके तो यही कपड़ा वो वीडियो पर लेवल 9
same M3 tap that we used earlier, and you may or may not need to reposition this.
항상 그런 거나.
और देखो
Hello, hello,